Hey there, folks. Welcome to another Cocodona info session. I'm Race Director Steve Adderholt, and we have a bunch of good things for you this session. We're going to hear from Wilderness Volunteers, who is our official nonprofit partner for the Cocodona races. We're also going to hear from a couple of folks from Gnarly Nutrition, who's been a supporter of Aravaipa for many years and Cocodona for all 4 of our years now. Shannon's going to tell us about all the products, all the Gnarly products we'll have at the aid stations, and how you can train in advance of the race to use Gnarly to its best ability. And Nate Smith ran with us in 2021. He's going to tell us about his experience and his tips and tricks for staying hydrated and using electrolytes and calories while we run. So, and then I'm going to get into some nitty-gritty details about the race. So that's what we're going to get into. Without any further ado, why don't we bring on Carrie? Carrie, how you doing?
Great. How are you?
Great. Well, I guess Carrie, we've been partnering now. This I guess would be the 3rd year for partnership between Wilderness Volunteers and Cocodona. Tell us, for people that are new, tell us about Wilderness Volunteers.
Yeah. Wilderness Volunteers is a Flagstaff-based nonprofit organization. We were founded in 1997, so this is our 27th year. And our mission is to engage people in meaningful volunteer service opportunities that can serve and protect America's wildlands. So each year we coordinate about 40 week-long volunteer projects all across the country in various wilderness areas, doing a wide variety of work, including trail maintenance, invasive species removal, new trail construction, habitat restoration, and much, much more. So it's a super fun organization to be involved with. I've been the executive director for about 2.5 years. And this has been a great partnership, and I'm excited to talk about our trail work day and more about Wilderness Volunteers.
Yeah, great. Okay. Well, tell us a little bit about what, from a high level view, what is a trip? What will people experience on one of your service trips?
Yeah, great question. They're all very different. So most of our projects are front country projects, which means that we're camping in either a designated campground or a dispersed camping area somewhat near vehicles. About 25 or 30% of our projects are backcountry. So we are backpacking into a base camp, often with some type of pack support, but sometimes not. So either way, we're out camping for a whole week. And all of our trips are a week long. We typically meet up on a Sunday afternoon, establish base camp, and then we volunteer all day on Monday and Tuesday. Like I mentioned, all of our projects are really different in terms of what type of work we're doing and what the location is. We volunteer coast to coast, so we have desert environments, high mountain, alpine environments, and a lot of different types of work. So there really is something for everyone. Wednesday is our free day. So a lot of our volunteers travel from afar and select a volunteer project because they want to see the area. So on Wednesday, you're free to hike, relax, fish, do whatever you want. And then we volunteer all day on Thursday and Friday and depart on Saturday.
Sweet. And how much is one of these trips cost a participant who wants to come out and work for a week?
Yeah, the cost to volunteers is $375, which covers all of the food for the full week, 3 meals a day and snacks, covers the camping accommodations, the cooking equipment, volunteer accident insurance, and much more. And we do have scholarships available. Our scholarship fund has grown quite a bit, so we have a lot of scholarships to offer for the 2024 season.
Awesome. Well, I mean, that seems ridiculously well priced for, a week of being camping in the wilderness and doing some good work and giving back and getting a Wednesday to go out on the trails and run. So, yeah, sounds like a good deal. Any favorite trips that you have personally?
My favorite trip is our Oak Creek Canyon project. I live in Flagstaff, so this is home. And Oak Creek Canyon, for those of you who aren't familiar, is down in Sedona, and we will all be crossing it during Cocodona. And for people who live around here, we know very well that the creek has seen a huge influx in visitation in recent years. Oak Creek Canyon sees over 2 million visitors every single year. And it's not a big area. It's a 12-mile long canyon. And it's common to see vehicles like parked right off the road, damaging natural resources. It's common to see people just kind of bombing down the slopes straight to the creek, leaving behind diapers, beer, anything and everything you can imagine. So this project that I've worked on now, this will be my third year, consecutive year in Oak Creek Canyon, works to prevent some of the negative impacts of human use by closing user-created social trails and establishing some of the established trails to prevent future erosion. So we've actually seen big improvements already in the past few years working on this project. So that's my favorite because it's in my backyard. Yeah, but there are a lot of incredible ones this year.
Well, and we're going to be in Oak Creek for the Trail Work Day.
Yeah.
On March 23rd. So you want to tell us about that? We've partnered with Wilderness Volunteers to help us bring together this Trail Work Day. So yeah, were you saying that we had 13 signups so far?
Yeah, 13. We're capping it at 20. So if you're interested, sign up today. 7 spots left, and it's doing the work that I just described. So it's just getting a taste of what our week-long project is like. We'll be volunteering from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. You'll be working to improve trails along Oak Creek Canyon and close some of the social trails to prevent erosion and prevent resource damage along the creek.
Sweet. Yeah, that's great. So that's March 23rd. Information on that and how to sign up has come out, and we'll do another post on social media. And then if you aren't on social media or haven't seen it, send me an email, Steve at Aravaipa Running, and I'll get you the details and the invite on that. So then after that work day on the 23rd, we're going to camp out at Crescent Moon Campground. We've got a group site for anybody who wants to stick around. And then we're going to do an informal run on the course on Sunday, March 24th. So yeah, great. Well, thanks for helping organize that, Carrie, and everything else that you do with Wilderness Volunteers. Appreciate all the work.
Thanks. And go follow us on Instagram at Wilderness Volunteers. And if you're looking for that Eventbrite sign up for the Trail Work Day, you can go to the link in our profile at Wilderness Volunteers and you'll find it. It should be the first link. We'll be posting again as well.
Cool. Okay. Well, thanks for joining us, Carrie. Thanks. Okay. Bye. Great. Wilderness Volunteers, good people doing good work here all across the United States, but based here in Flagstaff. So happy to be partnered with them. The next couple of folks we're going to talk to are from Gnarly Nutrition. Gnarly, as I said before, has been a great partner with us. I'm going to bring on Shannon and Nate. Hey, guys, welcome.
Hey, good to see you, Steve.
Yeah, y'all too.
Yeah, good to see you, Steve.
Yeah. So, Nate, why don't you introduce yourself? You ran with us in 2021 at Cocodona, right?
I did, yep. I got to be a part of the inaugural year and was able to complete the course. So, yeah.
Sweet, man. I don't know why that sounds so underwhelming. I got to complete the course.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, as we'll get into, yeah, I think we all didn't really understand the diversity of the course, and as we'll probably dive into here a little bit, just the first kind of 31 miles, 50K of it was pretty eye-opening for a lot of us. But yeah, a little bit about myself. I'm a faculty member here at Lake Tahoe Community College in South Lake Tahoe. I just finished up 5 years out in Pennsylvania, where I was at a different university. And prior to that, where I actually met Steve in a prior life in Salt Lake City. So in addition to working in higher ed, I am an athlete with Gnarly Nutrition and RAB and Camp. And I've had the opportunity to participate in races like Cocodona and some others as well. So.
Sweet. Thanks for that, Nate. And Shannon, you're back with us again another year. Thank you so much. Tell us about yourself.
Sure. I am the new CEO of Gnarly Nutrition. So although I've been with Gnarly in many different capacities for about the last 8 years, I get to claim that title now. Still means that I do a little bit of everything. You know, we don't have a lot of titles when we're such a small company, but I love what we do here. We've been around since 2013, so we just passed the 10-year mark. And our focus is really to make delicious, high-quality, science-backed sports nutrition products for athletes of all types. So all of our products are NSF certified, which means that label claims are tested, and the products are also tested for contaminants. So microbes, heavy metals, but also all the banned substances on the World Anti-Doping Agency banned substances list. So you're getting everything that you should be getting and nothing that you shouldn't be getting when you get Gnarly products.
Awesome. Well, and I mean, most important to me is that they work and they taste great, which they do. So
Awesome.
I like that part. Otherwise, I'm not as picky as some people may be about what they put into their body, but that's not what this podcast is about. So, and it's not a podcast either. So I'm all over the place here. Okay, well, let's jump over to Nate. Nate, I want to talk about your experience in Cocodona in 2021. Tell us kind of your overall takeaway from. Well, I guess you just did that. Was that your first 200-mile distance race? Was that your last? Are you going to go back to the distance? Was that like a one and done thing?
Yeah, no, it was my first at the 200 plus mile range. I think the year that I did it, it was actually a little over 250. It was about 257. I never really got clarity on that, but I think some of us thought it was a little longer. But no, actually, since then, I have gone on and done the Swiss Peaks 360K in Switzerland, which was about 25 less miles, but more than double the vertical. So about 90,000
Wow.
vertical gain and descent.
Dang.
And interestingly enough, Cocodona took almost 2 days less than the Swiss Peaks race, which I thought was really interesting because for me in Cocodona, the heat was definitely a challenge in the beginning and then ending essentially in near freezing conditions outside of Flagstaff in the night. So I feel like Cocodona actually gave this really broad environmental challenge. And then obviously running through Arizona was amazing. So when I took what I learned in Cocodona to Switzerland, it was completely different. Didn't have as many hydration issues, but obviously it was very different with the amount of vertical. So
Yeah. Cocodona is definitely unique in the variant between hot and cold. But man, that other race sounds really challenging. Well, tell us how do you typically for when you ran Cocodona, how would you typically take in calories versus electrolytes? Are you doing a mix of Gnarly and water? Are you doing electrolyte capsules? Like, how are you balancing that?
yeah, for the most part, Gnarly Hydrate is my go-to for electrolyte, and Fuel 2O is something I use regularly now, and I used it a little bit in 2021 Cocodona, but um, used it a lot when I went into Swiss Peaks. And generally, my go-to is kind of a one-to-one, so one flask of water, one flask of electrolyte or hydration. So with Cocodona, because we were expected to carry so much more water, I believe it was like mile 10 approximately to 30. I did have a bladder. So I started the race with a 3 liter bladder empty, and I had two 500 ml flasks in front and did one to one. So one water and one electrolyte. And again, I was using Gnarly Hydrate. But then when I got to that aid station and filled up the 3 liter, and I actually had a 1 liter collapsible as well. So because I carried 5 liters out of there, which it seemed like a lot, but then it ended up being the right thing. It kept me in the top 30 people. So I got up and over down into Crown King before there were some issues with folks and their hydration. I say the 5 liters was the right call because I gave a liter away to someone on course. At that point, somebody had come down and it was okay, I guess, to do that. So I gave some water to somebody because they were out on the side of the trail fully exposed, and so I consumed 4 liters. But going back to kind of the electrolyte, uh, at that point, I think I had double Gnarly Hydrate. I was carrying my own powder in the front, and then I used a liquid a product Elite in my bladder just because it was the one time like I didn't want a bunch of powder in my bladder, and I didn't know how that would work very well. So I tried this Elite product, which I actually have stopped using because I think it negatively impacted my tongue a bit. I ended up by the end of the race with a few blisters on my tongue, which I haven't had that since, with 6 days a week of using Gnarly products, and then also, 140-ish hours on the Swiss Peaks 360K race. So, yeah, so that's
That's
a
an
little bit about kind of what worked.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an interesting thing that you don't necessarily think about, but happens quite a bit at 100-mile races, but also quite a bit more in the 200-mile races is the mouth fatigue, where you do feel like you have blisters from taking in, so much salty or so much sweet food, and your mouth starts really hurting. So that's awesome to know that Gnarly doesn't give that, that impact on your mouth. So then,
Yeah.
when you do the 1-to-1 flask, do you use like a more concentrated version in the flask, or diluted, or how do you do that?
Yeah, so usually if I'm at a higher output or the middle of the day and it's hot, I'll definitely go at recommended concentration or a little more. So, um, and I know it's a bit wasteful, but I found it's just easier to use the individual sticks for like Gnarly Hydrate or for the Fuel 2.0 in a race. I've tried doing like carry a bag of powder and have a scoop, and it just doesn't work that well. Um, and yeah, so I will go a little more concentrated, but then when it cools off at night, I'll actually kind of like titrate it back. I'll try to go a little more diluted and try to give my mouth a bit of a rest. I I think the reason Cocodona was successful for me is because I took in a lot of electrolyte, but by the end of it, I definitely had mouth fatigue. So in the next 200 plus mile race I did, it wasn't as hot overall. There were definitely hot days, but I didn't. I generally go at recommended or dilute. I usually don't over concentrate. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Okay.
So.
And then are you getting all of your electrolyte? Well, not all of it, but are you also taking other methods to supplement electrolyte other than the Gnarly products they're taking in?
Yeah, I like to use different chews and blocks as a way to get more sodium and such. I mean, I've had a lot of success with the Cliff blocks, specifically the watermelon or the margarita flavor, because they're double or triple the amount of sodium. And I'll kind of go back and forth depending upon what I'm trying to do. I've never been a big capsule fan personally. I just get really thirsty, so I find that I have to consume even more water. I prefer to have
Mm,
kind of the hydration in my flasks, and then a little bit of chewable food to go with
okay.
it.
So then you roll into an aid station. You might have some extra uh, powder sleeves in your drop bags, and then you just have them fill up water, and then as you go, you're mixing in the fuel 2.0.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, depending upon either Gnarly Hydrate or the Fuel 2.0, if it's available at the aid station, I'll fill it up just directly out of there. Otherwise, just ask for water, and then I usually go with my own powders. Yeah, I'll typically use what I've trained with leading up to the race, and then just try not to overcomplicate it at aid stations. I did the same thing in Switzerland. I actually brought all my own Gnarly product over there, instead of relying on what they had, and that was recommended to me by folks who'd raced in Europe. So. Um, and if I can, I'll walk and add powders. A lot of times at Cocodona, the aid station folks were so friendly and helpful that they would even help me do it. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, cool. That's great to hear. Uh, yeah, I think what you said about taking Gnarly with you to that other race, I think it's smart to train in advance with whatever you're going to try during the race. It's not always a good idea to try a new thing on a big race like this. So trying it in advance, it's a great idea. Um, any other? I guess I wanted to talk to you about pacers and crew and drop bags, and how you planned out kind of your different drops, specifically around the electrolytes and calories that you were taking in.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So I was pretty fortunate. I had a friend that was my crew chief, and then my wife was also crewing, and she paced me for a little over 100 miles of the course, so at different strategic times. And then my crew chief even stepped in out of Jerome because she needed to rest, and he totaled it about 30 miles. So I was fortunate for about 130 miles of course to have somebody with me, which was super helpful, obviously at aid stations, and then just having my stuff at most of the crew accessible spots. Um, so they generally I mean, we had to change our whole approach at Crown King because the time plan just kind of changed, I think, for all of us. We realized that our time goals were not realistic. And then it wasn't until I got to, I'm blanking on the name of the camp, but where you're able to pick up your pacer at around mile 70 or so.
Camp
Um,
Wamatochik in 2021. Yeah.
yep. So yeah, when I got to there, they then told me how challenging that section had been, and we actually, everything we had made from pace chart to crew kind of lists, everything got changed at that camp, and it just became a longer race than we had planned. I mean, I still think I was right around 100 hours, but um, for that first year, I think that the environmental side just really took us all by surprise a little bit. One thing I wanted to mention with the hydration that I think helped me, that I noticed I was one of the only people doing, was wearing a sun hoodie from the very beginning. Um, I had my hood up the whole time on that first day, and then I kept it on through Sedona during the middle of the day, and then up on the plateau and everything. And it's interesting, when I've followed along each year since, I've noticed that everybody's taking their sun protection really serious. So I think in addition to the hydration piece, that sun protection piece is huge, and I would encourage folks to really consider it. But yeah. Um,
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we even saw somebody last year having a sunbrella with them,
yeah,
which, I
totally.
mean, it's big for the thru hikers, but yeah, it definitely helps cut down that temperature. Well, thanks, Nate. Thank you so much for your insight and for being a part of the race. Good luck with all you've got going on. Stick with us. I'm going to jump over to Shannon, though. And Shannon, welcome back, Shannon. Hello.
Thanks so much.
So I guess Nate talked about a few different Gnarly products that he uses. Tell us what's going to be at the aid stations at Cocodona.
Sure. We're going to have Gnarly Fuel 2.0. This year it'll be the tropical flavor, which is uncaffeinated. It's 100 milligrams of carbohydrate, excuse me, 100 calories or 25 milligrams of carbohydrate per 12 ounces. Got my units mixed up. Um, those, those carbs come from two different sources of sugar. So sucrose and dextrose, or dextrose, another name for that is glucose. So we use two different types of sugar because it helps with the absorption into your body of carbohydrates as a whole, brings down the risk of any kind of gut distress. In those 12-ounce servings, there's also 250 milligrams of sodium. So Nate referenced using hydrate as well. And so in case people are interested, I just kind of want to contrast those two products so they understand the difference between the two. So hydrate has the exact same electrolyte profile as Fuel 2.0. It also has 250 milligrams of sodium, but that product is really just meant to deliver electrolytes and be less of a caloric source. So while it does have some sugar, it's only 30 calories per serving. Having some sugar in the product helps actively push water into your system, make the product a better hydration product than if it didn't have any sugar at all. And so if you're using Gnarly Hydrate, then you're getting the majority of your calories from other sources. So foods at aid stations, blocks or gels like Nate referenced. If you're using Gnarly Fuel 2.0, in addition to those electrolytes, you're also getting a baseline of calories that then you would also supplement with additional calories. And I love that Nate brought up using or carrying both a flask with Gnarly Fuel 2.0 and a flask with water. That's typically what I recommend for endurance athletes, because having a concentrated flask or slightly more concentrated than as directed of Gnarly Fuel 2.0 decreases the amount of calories you would have to carry as a fluid, and also allows you to carry some water, which does a couple of things. One, after you take some concentrated fuel 2O, you can wash it down with water, which will help with fuel 2O help with palate fatigue and further reduce the risk of any gut distress. And two, it allows you some variability in terms of what you want to do with food or with liquid nutrition. So I love that he does that, and that's generally what I recommend as well.
Awesome. Okay. I mean, it's hard to say. Everybody's different, and every section of the course is different with how much effort you're putting in and how hot or cold it is. But what's your typical rate of intake for what you would recommend for the Fuel 2O?
Yeah, I can't even answer that question, Nate, just because there's a huge amount of variability. I mean, Cocodona is in May, and so people are coming from all over the country, and obviously the temperatures in spring are going to be, quite variable. I definitely recommend people do sweat tests, which is, when you weigh yourself before you run, go out and run. If you drink anything, make sure you pay attention to that. Weigh yourself when you get back, and a pound of weight loss is approximately 16 ounces of fluid loss, and then you're going to add anything that you drank to that number. So if you lost a pound, that's 16 ounces. If you drank 8 ounces, you'd be at 24 ounces, and you would want to aim for about 80 to 90% of that number. And what's critical in races of this distance is and especially at Cocodona, when you get so much temperature variability, is obviously the amount of fluid and the amount of sodium that you want to take when it's cooler or when it's evening. It's going to be substantially different from the amount that you would want to take, in the heat, when you're in direct sun. So getting an idea of what for you as an individual that variability might look like, and then, planning off of that.
Yeah. That's a great answer to a question that can't be answered. Okay, so it sounds like everybody should test out and figure out what works for them. If we have people that want to order Gnarly product and train with it in advance of the race, how should they do that?
Yeah, so we have a discount code, PUSH, PUSH 2024. That'll get you 20% off of any Gnarly products. And that's a great way to try Fuel 2O or try other things. I've chatted with Nate before, and I think he can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he uses Gnarly pre-workout, which has a nice healthy dose of caffeine to pick him up a little bit. And then I believe he uses your favorite, Steve, Gnarly Vegan as well, to get some protein and some more calories in him. So I know Steve's a big fan of, I think it's the vegan chocolate. So you might want to try those products as well to add, see how your stomach handles them while you're training. As Nate and Steve both said, practicing with whether it's Gnarly products or other products, including different types of food, different concentrations of products, proportion of water you carry versus liquid calories. These are all things that you should be working out during your training run, so you have your system dialed ahead of race day.
Yep. Yeah, great advice on that one. Yeah, and I do love your vegan chocolate. I just had some this morning. It's amazing, and I use it during races as well, kind of like as right before I'll go to sleep. If on a long race like Cocodona, I would take in some of the Gnarly vegan chocolate protein mix to kind of recover as I sleep. So
super smart.
That's my plug. So okay, another another reason I love Gnarly is the strides that you guys have made towards being as sustainable as you can. Tell us a little bit about those efforts and what Gnarly has done.
Yeah, so about 2 years ago, both as an internal initiative, but also from based on customers or emails we got from many of our customers, we really wanted to cut down on the amount of plastic we used for packaging in our line. So we switched all of our products that were in kind of your quintessential plastic protein tubs to stainless steel cans. So folks may not realize this, but only 5% of plastic is actually recycled domestically. You can look into it. It's for a number of reasons. We used to ship all of our recyclable plastic to China in 2018. They shut that off. We don't have the infrastructure. And so we're left with kind of this abysmal recycling rate that is steadily going down. It was 7 to 8% 2 years ago, and this year was reevaluated at 5%. So plastic recycling is a major issue, and even if plastic is recycled, it breaks down in 1 to 2 lifetimes, and then we're left with microplastics. So in contrast, stainless steel is recycled at a rate of 70 to 80%, and in the production of any new steel, recycled steel is used. So it inherently has a better life cycle. Plus, there's none of that breakdown that you see with plastic, so it's infinitely recyclable. So we, switched that up. We moved all of our product that is in bags to recyclable bags. So the majority of products in the food or supplement space that are in bags, those bags aren't actually recyclable. So look on the back of your bags and make sure you see that recyclable symbol, and then take them to a drop-off recycling center. A lot of grocery stores have those now. And then this year we're actually removing, this is the first time I've announced it to the public, but we will be doing so shortly. We're going to be slowly phasing out our plastic scoops. So folks that are attached to plastic scoops, hold on to yours. You will have the option to add a plastic scoop to your order if you really need one. And we will also be putting, kitchen equivalents on packaging. But we're really trying to slowly phase out the use of plastic in our line, and trying to, take a step in the right direction of sustainability.
Awesome. That's so great. I love all of those measures, and I love taking away the plastic scoops. That's really great. Everybody has a measuring cup at home. They can measure it out themselves. Well, sweet. Well, I'm going to bring Nate back on the screen here. Thank you to both so much for joining us today and for being a partner of Cocodona. I appreciate it so much, and hopefully we got some good information to the runners. And yeah, thanks for joining us again, guys.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, thanks, Steve.
Yep. Bye. Y'all take care. All right. Man, I really am a big fan of Gnarly. They make some great products that taste really great, and they are really leading the industry in sustainability measures too. So I love that. Okay, let's cover the latest developments in the Cocodona races. First off, Cocodona 250. I said this in a previous info session, but we are changing our start line to Deep Canyon Ranch. It's still in Black Canyon City. It's just a little bit further north. We just got approval on the route that we wanted to take out from that start line. So we will no longer be crossing the Verde River in the first couple of miles of the course. Instead, you're going to go up a dry creek drainage. Hopefully it's dry. It should be dry unless it really rains on us right before the race. And there are some small sections of, little 4 or 5 foot scrambling over a dry waterfall. It's a really cool little 1 mile stretch, but that cuts out the Verde River crossing and keeps that mileage for that first day to Crown King to 37, which is a big deal for if that added mileage in that first day, that would be a tough pill to swallow. We also added a cutoff at Lane Mountain Aid Station. So that's the aid station right before Crown King. In effect, we didn't add a cutoff. The cutoff that we put in place, 11:20 p.m., there's really no way you could make that distance from Lane Mountain to Crown King within that allotment of time. So it's really just a time for us that we can say anybody coming in after this is cut off, and hopefully that's not many folks at all this year. We had a couple of questions that came up on required gear. I did a awesome run with a buddy of mine, Wes, and we had some fun out in the snow and did a great ridgeline here in Arizona. But he brought up a question about required gear for Cocodona. So there is a myth that you have to have the required gear on the entire stretch of course from start to finish, which that's not the case. That first stretch from the start to Crown King, you don't have to have any of the cold weather gear, so your extra layers, gloves, hat, that sort of thing. You don't have to pick that up until Crown King. That first stretch, you just need the GPS device, the hydration, the electrolytes, and 4 liters of water from that first aid station. So you don't have to carry the required cold weather gear from the start line to Crown King. Just a heads up. Sedona Canyons 125 update. We took away Deer Pass Aid Station as a crew access aid station from you guys, and we didn't think about it, but we should have added in that aid station for drop bags. So we're going to do that. So that's a change. We are going to have a bunch of great merchandise coming out this year. I'm wearing a Left on Birch hat, which is a really fun. The last turn of the race is onto Birch. We take a left in Flagstaff. So there's a couple of merchandise items with Left on Birch. But we have a pre-sale going on. If you go to our website and go to the shop tab of Cocodona, you can get to our merchandise site. If you order before April 3rd, so April 2nd and prior to that, it'll get shipped to you before the race. We have a bunch of items that are pacer specific, crew specific, and you'll even be able to get finisher printed on your shirt at the finish line if you'd like. Order before April 2nd and it'll get delivered to you. If you order after April 2nd, we're probably going to ship it to you after the race, but you can always buy merchandise during the race on race week. I want to announce a new partnership with Prescott Creeks. Prescott Creeks is a nonprofit organization that their mission is to achieve healthy watersheds and clean waters in central Arizona. We run through one of the places that they help protect in the Watson Woods riparian area, just as we cross from Prescott into Prescott Valley. So we are hopefully helping support them in their efforts to keep these riparian areas in good shape. Consider going out with them on the Granite Creek Cleanup Day on April 20th, 4/20. Go out and help them do a cleanup day. And you can also consider donating to their Forever Preserve the Watson Woods riparian area. That's a campaign that they have going on. You can find out more at prescottcreeks.org. Check them out and help support a great organization. Okay, speaking of supporting people, we are trying to drum up as much funds as we can for our scholarship program for next year. Lecky is a maker of great trekking and trail running poles, pretty much the best in the industry. They are going to pitch in 10 pairs of poles to be given to, at random, anybody who pitches in $25 to the scholarship pool for next year. So you can go to the runner guide and go to the scholarship section, and there's a link to donate $25. Every $25 donation gets an entry for those 10 Lecky poles. So yeah, check that out. We still are looking for some staff roles to help for the event. If you know of anybody who's interested in coming out and working for the week at this race and helping the runners get to the finish line, send me an email. Specifically, any massage therapists or PT or other body work modality professionals. We're looking for a sports massage program to enact at a few of our aid stations. So email me, steve@aravaiparunning.com, if you are interested or you know somebody who might be. And with that, volunteer sign up is open for Cocodona. So please have anyone you know and love come out and support you by being a volunteer at the race. That's all I have for you this time. Thanks for joining, and thanks for running Cocodona. We look forward to seeing you in May. Take care. Happy running.